Hi, my name is Laura Olsen, and this is for EPY 451. For part A of this assignment, the proposition I chose was minorities are executed more for the same crimes that are committed by white Americans. I ended up going with the question, who is executed more for the same crimes committed by white Americans? After looking over it, I think that I chose a question that was a bit too wordy, and it would have been better if the question was more along the lines of who is more likely to be executed for a crime. Adding committed by white Americans adds a little bit of confusion. And then also, after I took another look at it, I noticed my answers were not the best answer choices for that question. A student could actually guess the answer without knowing the material, since my answer choices were adults, elderly, teenagers, or minorities, which was the answer. Elderly, adults, and teenagers also all fall under the white Americans category, but the answer minority would not, so they didn't need to know the material without finding that out, so I would have changed that in a real exam. I also think that this type of statement might be better suited for a true or false question, because as I mentioned in my learning log, in the Teacher's Corner response from Stephanie Stoebe, she mentioned that she likes to create true or false questions and then have the student explain why they picked that answer. That way they're not guessing 50-50, they actually have reasoning for why they chose that. For part B of this assignment, I noticed a lot of questions during the exam which used verbatim correct responses from the paragraphs that we were provided with. As our textbook mentioned, the sentence loses meaning when it is taken out of context when it is used like this, because they might remember that from the text but not actually know the material. Another thing that I noticed was that there were several questions that were either almost exactly the same or had an answer to them, and then that answer was in another question. For example, one of the questions was, blank puts the Sixth Amendment right to public and fair trial, in conflict with the First Amendment, right to freedom of press. And then another question was, which two constitutional amendments were brought into question the legality of having the press in the courtrooms? And then the answer was the First and the Sixth, which was in the question of the other question. One specific question I wanted to mention was that I was really confused about the wording of this one, and I spent a lot of time during the exam thinking about what the question was asking of me instead of trying to think about what the correct answer was. So this was it. It is difficult for jurors who have not formed biases or been exposed to inadmissible evidence when what occurs. I still can't figure out what exactly. I think the wording is a little bit off there. The last point that I wanted to make was the book noted that you shouldn't use answer choices such as all of the above or none of the above, and I did see a few of those during the exam.